I sit in front of it. It sits in front of me. I can continue. I do want to, but I don't. Or maybe I can't. I'm confused, conflicted, stuck in a limbo. All I do is sit. I sit in front of the game. The game sits in front of me. Why do I do this? What is the cause of all of this?
I don't know what to play.
The mid-season burnout has never hit harder than it has now, and currently my Destiny 2 gameplay loop consists of But how did I end up here? How did we end up here? The loading screen experience is now a common occurrence, where instead of playing the game, we all just this. This is no normal mid-season slump. I mean, the current peak of Destiny 2 gameplay is sitting in a menu and making outfits. This is one of the most elaborate and activity-rich games on planet Earth. I'm not burnt out. I want to do the activities in the game. So why in the world am I sitting in menus making outfits? As per usual, nobody can seem to make up their mind as to what's actually wrong right now, because Destiny 2 players will do pretty much anything but self-reflect and look at things objectively. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not a little biased myself. Everybody has a bias, and people who say they are the most biased. Actually, you'll learn that. I tend to see things as more of a casual player than as a professional, even though technically I am a content creator, if that's what you want to call this. However, I'm still gonna try my best to figure out what the heck is going on here. Why in the world do I sit on my loading screen all day and stare? For starters, the current nothing to do feeling stems from the fact that everything is a grind. And I don't mean grindy, I mean the point of everything is the grind. The grind is the reward. It is the content. That's at least how this whole game is structured at this point. Go to a thing, do stuff, rank up. It feels like everything has a rank up system, from planets to missions to literally us, and it feels like without those rank systems, the activities are pretty reward deprived. And if I don't partake in the rank systems at all, the bulk of those activities become entirely reward deprived. There isn't an end goal or an end prize with these grinds though, just an arbitrary number with a crumb trail of rewards along the way. Even if you do manage to rank all the way up, the game encourages you to reset and start the whole process over again. That gets really old after a while. It sounds backwards, but it actually feels better to get a bigger reward at the end of a big grind and not have many tiny progression rewards like glimmer and engrams. That way it feels more like your grind had a point at a true end with a true big payout, rather than stopping halfway through because you got the enhancement core you wanted. Heck, I'd rather not have a progression system at all and instead have bigger rewards for things like public events, but that's a different issue. And it's also more personal preference because I'm probably one of like 3 people on planet Earth who plays public events unironically. The other problem with the progression system is that there's just so darn many of them. Like I said earlier, you can't go anywhere without being jump scared by another progression system. To be fair, some things having progression is not bad. I like having my passive rewards while doing some activities because my dopamine receptors are still fried. But when that rule gets applied to everything from gambit matches to Grandmaster Nightfalls, it gets very, very grating. Of course, they aren't exactly wrong for giving us all these progression systems. It is still a reward source, but they aren't right either. There's so many better ways to do this. This is just kind of the band-aid fix. Speaking of stupid amounts of progression, there's the third major issue I have in the seasonal model. I'm not going to be a purist and say gaming was better before all battle passes. We should get rid of them all, because frankly, it wasn't. A game's gotta make money somehow, and while I definitely have some feelings on Destiny 2's monetization system, I don't think just scrapping the seasonal model will help. It's the way that Bungie currently operates their seasonal model that's the problem. At the beginning of a season, everything is awesome, fine and dandy. We get story content and a ton of new stuff, and it's great, and everyone has a fun time. However, halfway through the season, the story ends and all the new content has aged a little. So we're left with no new content to try and nothing but a seasonal challenge page to complete. Bada bing, bada boom. I think it would actually be better if the content was drip fed a little more in the seasonal model. I know, take your hands off the dislike button for a second and hear me out. In games like Fortnite, the seasonal content gets spread out over the course of the season. There's usually weekly challenges and some odd story missions until eventually there's a big live event at the end of it. At least that's kind of how it used to be in like season 5, 6, 7, whatever. I haven't really played since the old chapter 1 battle passes. Actually, let's check in on Fortnite. Okay, never mind, ignore that example. It feels like the season in Fortnite, at least in the olden days, is fuller, even though arguably that's far less content than what Destiny puts out. The problem with Destiny's seasons is it feels like most of the important content gets front-loaded, and by the end of the season, everybody's lost interest. Imagine if your favorite TV show had all of the story content in the front end, a big gap full of a ton of filler episodes, and then one last story episode at the very end. You'd get bored of it halfway through. I get it. Our seasons are way longer than Fortnite and Apex and whatever else, but there has to be a little bit better content pacing to keep players engaged. The next bit is somewhat of an honorable mention before I hit the big reason behind the boredom, and that's that Bungie doesn't advertise their content well. Like, we might get one trailer the day a season comes out. Heck, even raids and dungeons don't even get trailers, and those are massive community-wide events that everybody wants to be a part of, and yet we still don't get them. Plus, some content in the game doesn't even get mentioned, let alone advertised. I didn't even know Veil Containment was a weekly thing, and I bet a bunch of you just realized that Veil Containment was a thing at all. It makes the content feel hypeless, like it just kind of exists. It's just there. Yeah, it's cool, but I'm not excited enough to play it. And that transitions me right into my final point. Man, I'm getting good at this YouTube thing. There's no reason to play anything. All the content in this game either requires too much effort to complete or takes no effort at all. I'm not saying that hard things bad or easy things bad. I believe quite the opposite, in fact. The problem is that Destiny 2's definition of difficulty seems to be time, which is a faulty conclusion. Some of my favorite encounters in all of Destiny don't take very long, but they're still a very fun challenge. And I love easy things that might take a while, but give me time to explore and do other things passively. Unfortunately, a lot of times those easy solo activities are kind of pointless unless you're doing progression stuff, but I've already been over that, and hard activities takes a lot of effort to either muster together an LFG or burn a ton of time figuring out how to do it solo. Remember back in late middle school when you learned about kinetic and potential energy? In case you're like 7, which is apparently actually a lot of you, what are you doing here? Go outside. Basically, potential energy is the energy that could be, and kinetic energy is the energy that is. Yada yada, laws of physics, whatever. What that means is that in the real world, it's way harder to start moving than it is to stop. Almost like a reflection of the real world, getting started in Destiny 2 is really hard because I either A, have to get a big fire team together to do a challenging activity, or B, choose which low-level grind I want to pick my way through. It's really hard to convince me to do either one of those, which leads to that feeling of not being burnt out, just sitting, staring, looking at a loading screen. How do we fix this though? I think to start, the simplest thing we can do is spread out the rewards to easy content. It feels like a lot of the stuff in the game gets bunched up at the top of the totem pole, while things like lost sectors and public events get barely anything. First off, I'm not saying give all lost sectors exotics. I'm just saying that, you know, maybe when I do a lost sector I only get like one legendary gun I'll never use from it, I'm not gonna want to do lost sectors. I think the hard content is in a better place reward-wise, but it needs better ways to access it. Gladly, we are getting a raid LFG system in-game soon, so hopefully that helps to get the ball rolling when all I want to do is chill in orbit, and most of all, hopefully it doesn't break the servers. I don't want to make hard content easier or easy content harder. I want to make the content in the game easier to access with more of an incentive to play. Trying to level the playing field doesn't work. A completely leveled game isn't fun. You have to lean into your different content strengths to bring out the best and give your players more of a reason to play their way, or else they won't play at all. I've done game dev for about 2 weeks now, so I'm not an expert, but I do know a little bit about psychology. Nobody likes it when it feels like the only two options are putting in too much effort effort for one activity or not getting rewarded for your time. And we're seeing steps in the right direction, like the LFG system, but for now, it's too easy to look at my shaders and the stars. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. If you wanna, like and subscribe. I have a stupid big Deepstone Crypt raid video coming out, like it might even push an hour at this rate. I can't wait to show you guys, but it's a lot of work. It's gonna be awesome, trust me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya!
Your time is up.